In today's Unicorn Overlord video, we're going to delve into the tactic system, which allows you to essentially set the AI that your characters will use in a battle. Now, at first glance, the system can seem intimidating, but once you start tinkering with it, you'll find that it's actually quite easy to use tactics to get more efficiency and effectiveness out of your units. So let's start by explaining the basics. The first thing to note is that each skill you slot will have a priority and two conditions, and the AI will essentially go down the list of priorities in order, looking for the specific conditions you set for each skill. If the conditions of priority 1 are not met, then the AI will skip to priority 2 and then look to see if its conditions are true or not. The AI will continue to do this until it either finds conditions that are true and then performs the associated action, or runs out of priorities. If the AI runs out of priorities, then your character will just skip their turn and do nothing. So it is very important not to set conditions so specific that your character becomes dead weight. To help with this, we are able to slot the same skill into as many priority slots as we want, allowing us to set multiple conditions and even have a default at the bottom of the list with no conditions at all, which will ensure that our unit will attack something at least. So to give you an example, we'll look at Rolf here. I have Rolf set with Flame Arrow on the first 3 priority slots. The first slot has a condition of a flying unit present. If there are none, then he jumps to priority 2 and looks for a scout. If there are no scouts, then he jumps to priority 3 and prioritizes the back row of the enemy. Now, the prioritize keyword is important because it means that Rolf will target a back row enemy if there is one, but otherwise he'll revert back to default targeting and just hit an enemy in the front row. It is possible to set this condition to back row without the prioritize keyword, which would cause Rolf to not attack at all if there wasn't a back row enemy. The prioritize keyword here just gives us a bit of a shortcut instead of having to add a 4th row with no conditions to make sure Rolf still attacks. Now you'll notice that active and passive skills have their own separate priority tracks. Whenever you slot an active skill, it's automatically placed above passives. Now this doesn't prevent passives from activating before active skills or anything, as they are considered separate priority lists, and most passives activate based on specific conditions anyway. For example, Rolf's Eagle Eye activates before he attacks to give him True Strike. In fact, in the case of passive abilities, many of them really won't benefit from specific conditions being set just by their very nature, though if they cause an attack to occur that doesn't have a specific target set by the ability itself, then you could use a condition to set a specific target. We'll talk about a few specifics around passives later, but for now, just know that you usually don't need to set conditions for them. Now, for an example of a character that I've set 2 conditions on the same priority line, let's take a look at Travis. So at priority 1, we have Poison Slash if a target has both more than one action point and is armored. So with this setup, Travis will only use Poison Slash on an armored enemy with more than one action point. I have this set up this way so that I can poison an armored enemy before they go, as poison only kicks in when an enemy uses an action point. In this way, I can get some damage past his armor, as otherwise Travis wouldn't do much damage to him. Now, if there isn't an armored enemy with action points left, then Travis will default to number 2 here and use passive steal on the highest initiative enemy with 1 or more passive points. This is nice because we might be able to prevent a witch's magic transferal, for instance, or a fighter's arrow cover. Now, we should also take note here that the highest initiative condition uses the prioritize keyword as well. It doesn't show up on the condition list itself, but it is in the description when highlighting it. So this means that if Travis can't target the highest initiative enemy for some reason, he'll still default to another target. I also have 1 more passive steal slotted in priority 3, and that's there just in case there is no target with passive points left, because otherwise, as we mentioned before, Travis would just not perform an attack at all since the conditions of the attack were not met. So the important thing to note when setting 2 conditions on the same line is that they are read with an "and" between them, meaning that both conditions have to be true for the skill to activate. Now we'll move over to Chloe, where we can cover a passive skill with a condition. But first up though, let's quickly mention how to set up her long thrust attack. Since this attack can hit a full column, meaning an enemy in the front row and back row at the same time, I've set that condition for priority 1. So if there are stacked enemies, Chloe will target them, thereby maximizing her damage output. Then in priority 2, I just have her target the enemy with the lowest HP. And again, this is a prioritized condition, so she'll still attack even if she can't hit the lowest HP enemy for some reason. I've actually used this lowest HP condition on a lot of my characters as their default, as this can help focus fire on enemies and get rid of them instead of spreading damage all around an enemy unit without actually killing any of the enemies. Typically, in my experience, it's better that an enemy unit have less characters in it rather than have all of them with like 5 damage each. Moving on to Chloe's passive now, First Aid will default to just heal anybody that's less than 100% HP. But a viewer commented on a previous video and recommended that this be set to target the ally with the lowest HP, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So if we set Chloe to target the lowest HP, this will prevent her from possibly wasting this heal on someone that has only taken minimal damage. So now that we've covered the basics and how the tactic system works, let's cover a few more examples to help you optimize your units. Let's take a look at a wizard first. So the important thing here is that your spellcasters prioritize armored units, obviously. But then in the case of Ak here, since he has the chlorotic staff, he also has the fire burst ability that goes off at the end of combat. Now, fire burst does damage to a single target, but if the target is burning, then fire burst will actually damage all enemies. So I have it set up here to target burning enemies, and then if there are none, to just default to go off on whomever. So that's Ak. Now let's move over to my Housecarl. On him, I've got Crush, which stuns enemies, set to target armored and not stunned. And then if there are no armored enemies, to target the highest initiative enemy that isn't stunned, in hopes of making them skip their turn. Now, right now I don't have anyone else in the unit that stuns, so the condition of not stunned isn't necessary, but in the future I may have other units that do stun, so setting this condition is a way to make sure we don't waste stuns on already stunned enemies. It's probably a good idea actually to set similar conditions to any ability that inflicts a status effect so that you don't waste your status effect abilities. So if everyone in my Housecarl can hit is stunned, then he'll default to his smash attack, prioritizing armored enemies. Finally, I set the parting blow to go after the lowest HP enemy, hopefully ensuring that this attack actually finishes off an enemy at the end of battle. Now, another important note to be made about tactics is that you can actually save several tactic templates so that you can quickly and easily change your character's tactics on the fly. So for instance, a Housecarl's smash attack can be great for lowering the defense of an armored or other high defense unit. So if I want to focus on lowering defense instead of stunning, I have this template here. Otherwise, if I want to focus on the stun, then I have this template. So you can see that setting templates can be a great way to quickly change up your tactics in battle based on what you are fighting. And I'm sure as our units become larger, that having this flexibility will mean that we could design units to be effective against just about any threat they come across. Also, as we move farther into the game and our characters get more action points, then having certain skills set to specific conditions will come in handy. For instance, if a character has 2 attacks, one that's great against armored enemies and one that's better against magic users, then it will be beneficial to set each of these to go off only if their ideal target is present. Otherwise, maybe we default to some third basic skill instead. Even the passives will become more complex as well. For instance, maybe we will want to change our healing skills on clerics to only activate after an ally is below 75% health instead of anything under 100%. There are a lot of synergies to be found between skills on each character and even between skills of multiple characters, and it will be very interesting to see the builds that everyone comes up with. If you have any awesome builds to share, please do so in the comments. I want to see them. Also, if you want to see more Unicorn Overlord, you can watch this video here. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and keep on gaming.